Gao Peng has utterly defeated the ruler of the Black Phoenix mountain range. Said ruler itself is currently displaying a level of insolence, highly unfitting of its current situation at Gao Peng's mercy. Menacingly casual smile in place as usual, Gao Peng tells Dumby to go ahead. As soon as he hears this command, the undead ruler activates his power over the giant bird and causes it intense pain. It instantly surrenders upon suffering this, prompting Goldie to shoot out a kick at its perceived weakness. He hasn't even had a chance to fight yet, damn it. Even Frosty joins into crap on the bird, taunting it for still being lower level than him after so many years. Infuriated by this treatment, the feathered chub ball bellows that they should just kill it if that's their plan, since it won't tolerate this humiliation. I mean, what are you going to do about it, really? Frosty has no reservations about doing exactly that and forms an exceptionally sharp shard of ice to finish the job quickly and cleanly. Right at the last moment, though, the big bird wannabe remembers its children back at the mountain, chirping for its return. How was that not your first concern? Parent. Not wanting to leave those chicks to survive on their own, the tubby peacock hastily calls out that it still has influence in the Black Phoenix mountain range as its ruler. It goes on to detail how it can be of use to Gao Peng by cooperating as they are, rather than him having to find a new monster of his choice to rise to power there. Privately, Gao Peng is somewhat impressed by how smart the bird is to try such an approach. Being who he is, though, he decides to smugly smirk at the bird and tell it that it can work as a stove in his restaurant's kitchen, being a fire type and all. The peacock is naturally beyond offended by this proposal and expresses as much, only for Gao Peng to call Dumby on it yet again. The peacock knows it's no match for Dumby, who's already at St. Tier and backs down for the sake of its children. Alright, maybe I spoke too soon. Kinda a decent parent. With this surrender, it tells Gao Peng of the 3 children, so the appropriate steps can be taken. Interested in the idea of raising these children himself, Gao Peng tells Dumby to go with the peacock to retrieve them. Damn, our guy's a straight-up kidnapper now apparently. As Dumby flies away with the peacock angrily clutched by its feet, Shu Qingji asks him, why not just get rid of the peacock and take its kids? Jesus, chill lady. Gao Peng just comments that stuff like that may be easier with lower-level monsters, but intelligent ones are best treated as equals. Only by doing that and slowly chipping away at their pride can they most efficiently make use of them. She doesn't really get it, but that doesn't stop her from glazing the heck out of Gao Peng. Later, the 3 peacock chicks have been brought over, and Gao Peng scares the crap out of them. While moving to assign each chick with Shu Qingji, Gao Peng hears the mother peacock comforting the kids and telling them to be obedient, which almost makes him feel like the bad guy. Almost, but not quite though. Guilds for poozers. One of them is made a quality assurance officer in the restaurant kitchen, where it eats up any parasites and other organisms stuck in monster meat. Something the mother finds underwhelming, but also can't complain, since it's safe and honest work. Another signs a blood contract with Shu Qingji, and the last was taken by Gao Peng to his grandfather. Now, with all the chicks handled, Gao Peng sends old Huang to collect the peacock ruler, who tells the chef he'll be taking her off his hands. As the peacock sees old Huang, it gives him the stink eye with a downtrodden aura and mentally comments that it's time for her to be dealt with. While preparing herself for what she believes to be her final moments, the peacock overlord feels relief in the knowledge that her children will at least live long and safe lives. Strangely enough, she feels disappointed that none of them were able to become the humans familiar, most likely thinking of Gao Peng. Didn't she hate him like half a chapter ago? As a tear goes down her face and the peacock wonders why this is the last thing on her mind, she hears a sentence that leaves her in shock. Old Huang has just said that she's free to go. The peacock loudly exclaims in confusion over what this means, to which Huang just repeats his words. He also mentions that some people will come over to the volcano later to look for the peacock and hammer out the details of their alliance. For the sake of convenience, the peacock shall henceforth be known as Pak. Yeah, Pak works. Right before Pak can leave, old Huang also pulls out a communicator disc and relays a message from Gao Peng. Said message just being him yelling at Pak to leave already and stop eating his food stock up. The moment Dumby removes the restriction he had placed on the bird, Pak takes to the skies with immense speed befitting an overlord tier. While passing by Dumby, she only asks that he tell Gao Peng to be kind to her children. Later, Gao Peng thanks Huang for all his help over a video call and tells him he's free to go about his own duties now. As for himself, it's time to finally make use of the golden labyrinth brick thing he got from the Golem Lord. Alongside Shu Qingji, he steps outside and snaps his fingers with a blue flame over them. With nary but a pop, Fishy is summoned forth in his goofy chibi form. Shu Qingji begins commenting on how strange this new familiar of his is, when Fishy pulls out the golden labyrinth cube from his own storage. Shu Qingji, the simple-minded airhead that she can sometimes be, mistakes the thing for a Rubik's Cube, somehow, even though it's all one color. Freaking idiot. Fishy clarifies the name of the item to be the God Brick, and it's currently taking shape. The brick shoots out of Fishy's fins into the ground with a beam of golden light, causing the land to quake, as though Gaia herself were wailing. The people of the city are running around like headless chickens, in panic at the sudden development, but it luckily doesn't last much longer. Once the vibrations have settled down, Gao Peng tells Shu Qingji to have her new familiar, the little sparrow, attack the labyrinth wall that has formed around the city's perimeter. She does so, only for the little sparrow to faceplant into the wall, and then the ground in quick succession. Shu Qingji notices a mysterious light coating the wall like a protective barrier, and realizes the mysterious power of the labyrinth has returned. Gao Peng casually tells her that the settlement will be completely protected against all but Saint-tier beasts and higher. With that, it's time for him to head back to his grandpa, leaving this place in her and Li Junzong's care. Upon returning to his grandfather's villa back home, Gao Peng is surprised to find the place looking livelier than he's seen it in pretty much forever. There are a ton of people hanging around, as though a banquet is being held, most of them looking like they hail from an ancient tribe. Gao Peng meets up with his grandpa further inside the villa, where it seems he is having a meeting with an elderly woman. While Gao Peng is reporting to Ji on the evolution formulas he's managed to stabilize for their group, the woman comments that Gao Peng is just like his grandfather and like him. Everyone place your bets on who him is. Grandpa Ji coughs upon hearing this and tells the woman he's Ji Hunwoo, not him. He just happened to get that person's inheritance, but this is a mistake. I am so lost right now. Upon Gao Peng's questioning look, he's told that this lady is from the White Dragon tribe. Oh, right. They think Gramps is their holy priest or something. Thinking back on what limited knowledge he has of the ancient tribes, Gao Peng recalls that the White Dragon tribe is one of the top 3 tribes, leagues above all those below them. As far as he knows, the White Dragon tribe isn't particularly interested in fighting over territory here on Earth. They only came here to Yuzhou after establishing some level of friendliness with Southern Sky. Hell, they didn't even come off the fence and take a side, when he straight up committed genocide on the Yuhu tribe. So why are they here now? His internal monologue is interrupted when the old lady once more states that Gao Peng and his grandpa are really similar, a statement the old man seems to dislike as he instantly tells her he's who he is and Gao Peng is who he is. The old lady just patronizingly tells Grandpa Ji that she believes him, causing a tick to form on his head. Grandma really knows how to push the geezer's buttons. Moving away from the lighthearted banter, the old lady tells Gao Peng that she's here for serious business this time around. That business is an alliance that's to be held in the squared world in 6 days. All medium-sized and above tribes will participate to decide things like their stance towards Earth and the inevitability of the world becoming the main bridgehead for the war over the Jiyu Tian Shidi. Remembering what he heard about the ancient tribes being driven to the Black Fog world due to a lack of resources, Gao Peng wonders what bridgehead is exactly. The old lady explains that the tribes will not allow their war to take place in the squared world, as that is their headquarters. As such, the easiest solution they'll see is to make Earth the battleground for their war. Gao Peng can only get more worried and ask what happened last time around. Since the Jiyu Tian Shidi is their enemy, Granny just tells him that it's not quite so severe, as them being enemies and more that the current owners of Jiyu Tian Shidi don't want them to return back to it. I dunno, Grandma. That sounds pretty hostile to me. Later that night, Grandpa Ji finds Gao Peng standing at the edge of their balcony, staring out at the water with a troubled expression. As the old man approaches and makes his presence known, the two launch into a conversation about what is to come. Knowing that the Earth is going to become a battlefield in the near future is a little too much for him to be able to sleep after hearing it. With the supposed ancient tribes on one side and the unknown Jiyu Tian Shidi on the other, they want to break into his house and use it as an arena. And it's not like they can refuse either. Strong or not, Gao Peng is just one person, and a direct battle always holds the chance of killing him. He's considered having his familiars help defend Yuzhou, but then one of other cities like Chang'an. To Gao Peng's shock, his grandpa just cheerfully puts forth the recommendation that they move. That's right. His solution is for them to pack up all of humanity and skedaddle over to another world temporarily, since the ancient tribes are likely to do something similar. Grandpa G goes on to praise Gao Peng for how much he's grown in recent years, but reminds him that he needs to be able to look at the bigger picture as a leader. Gao Peng can't find a flaw in this idea, and knows that the Black Fog world is more than enough to fit billions of people. The only issue is the matter of how they're going to get so many people transported. A concern Grandpa G quickly addresses as he tells Gao Peng not to do everything himself. The coalition government should be more than capable of helping make this plan work. For their immediate plans, the two of them will head to the Squared World to see what the ancient tribes are getting up to. Gao Peng reassures him that he alone can handle checking out the Squared World since G is needed by the Alliance right now. In truth, he just doesn't want to put the old man in any unnecessary danger since the Squared World is unknown to them. From the proud wave, Ji Hunwoo smiles at this. It's apparent that he can see right through his grandson. The next day, Gao Peng is flying through the sky above the Himalayas, alongside some White Dragon tribe members. One of them, in particular, catches his eye. A 20-year-old girl with a level 69 pure-blooded White Dragon for a familiar. Something quite impressive for one of her age. Hey there, Pot. This is Kettle. After passing through the spatial rift, Gao Peng finds himself in what is known as the Dragon Archipelago. Crystal clear water, as far as the eye can see, an abundance of nature, and tons of dragon monsters, a place truly fitting its name. Upon landing and getting off of Dazi's back, Gao Peng meets the elderly lady from back at the villa. She tells him the history of this place and how things work, along with the minor fact that she's the tribe's current high priest. After that, she calls forth a strange, almost dinosaur-like monster, and tells Gao Peng that this is the royal beast of their tribe. Several of its kind act as their protectors here. She emphasizes that these beasts can mobilize instantly in the case of a threat, while giving Gao Peng some of the most bombastic side-eyes he's ever seen. Realizing that she's referring to his criminal actions against the Yuhu tribe, Gao Peng at least has the decency to look embarrassed, and assures her that he wouldn't do anything like that here. Yeah, alright buddy, we'll see about that. Before they head towards a more populated area, the priestess Granny takes a few minutes to give Gao Peng some information. For one, many people here are hostile towards the residents of Earth, which Gao Peng correctly guesses is due to their sacred bodies. Granny tells him that one reason for that is simply the rarity of his sacred body, but there's another. With spirit energy pooling around her open palm, Granny calls forth her familiar, a level 86 wicked green dragon. Gao Peng is already in awe of the majestic beast, but is in for another surprise when a level 89 Earthbreaker dragon ape then bursts out of the trees to take its place at Granny's side. It takes a moment for it to register for Gao Peng, but he's totally floored when it does. This old lady possesses a sacred body as well. Being who he is, Gao Peng instantly draws the correct conclusion that all high priestesses and priests are possessors of the sacred body. Or rather, only those who possess the sacred body are eligible for being selected as the tribe's high priestess. When Gao Peng pieces it all together fairly quickly on his own, Granny is rather impressed. She comments that the decline of their tribes may not be due to the lack of sacred bodies, but because they're too stuck in their old ways to advance. I mean, yeah, you literally call yourselves ancient tribes. Why not founding or great or something? Granny goes on to explain that though all of Earth's inhabitants possess sacred bodies, very few of them are actually powerful enough to cause fear in the tribes. To put it in the old analogy machine, the people of Earth are like a child walking the streets in the middle of the night, while openly carrying a bar of gold. Gao Peng considers doing something to make the first move, but Granny assures him that he needn't worry about it too much right now. Earth isn't even being targeted specifically just yet. The focus of this meeting is actually also going to be on how to deal with the aliens behind the GU Tian Shidi. Based on their calculations, the barrier protecting Earth won't last much longer, and when it dissipates, the planet will completely merge with the GU Tian Shidi. While Gao Peng nervously sweats in response to this knowledge, Granny turns to leave and tells him to make friends with the powerful youths he'll undoubtedly meet in the Squared World. Hearing this puts a pep right back in his step as Gao Peng dons an ominous smile and comments that he loves making friends. Oh boy, somebody's about to have a really bad day. Over in the local sea, a group of young men are having what appears to be a sea racing competition, and being completely dominated by their leader of sorts, Brother Du. The younger kids are enthusiastically telling him how he'll wipe the floor with his competition at the tribal gathering in 5 days. After all, he's only 26 and already has an overlord tier familiar. Hold up, what competition? Ain't this supposed to be a meeting? Dumma kids. Yu seems to be pretty humble though, as he tells the kids that there are plenty of incredible people out there, who he's nothing in comparison to. One of the younger guys agrees with this statement and starts telling the others about a man he saw in the ancestral land, who was an overlord trainer at only 20 years old. Wonder who that is. Despite his earlier show of humility, this seems to bother Du quite a bit. Just then, the others notice someone on the High Priestess's island, just across from where they are. The guy who spotted him suspects that this is the exact person that they were just talking about. Over on the shore, Gao Peng feels the eyes on him and instantly gets the sense that this isn't about to be a friendly encounter. Sure enough, one of the older White Tribe guys starts commenting on how being an overlord tier with a sacred body on top of it would require him to have several familiars at that level. Another of the older kids calls out that the High Priestess is a senile old bat and probably lied about this guy's level. With that in mind, he makes his way for the shore, while calling out that he'll test this guy himself. Yu calls out to this guy, Bai Ge, not to do anything rash, but he's in no mood to listen. With an unusual application of his spirit energy, he spreads it through the water below him, and calls forth a giant shark-like monster. This beast, the great Ao Tian, is what he'll attack Gao Peng with, your funeral dude. As Bai Ge plays with Ao Tian like an old friend, Du watches on in concern. Ao Tian is the king of their tribe's plesiosaurus herd and rivals the strength of even overlord tier monsters, but will it be enough? Watching Bai Ge play with him and convince him to stick around, Du decides to let things play out. Ao Tian is no less powerful than any other overlord after all. Calling it again, it's the poor thing's funeral. At Bai Ge's command, Ao Tian dives back underwater and zooms toward Gao Peng's location. Over on the shore, said prodigy trainer is just annoyed by the weird vibe he's picking up from the White Tribe youths. For now, he decides to just say screw them and do his own thing. He summons Goldie and tells the buff old duck to catch 2 fish for dinner, along with a promise of a bonus when he's done. Being the overly extra wee weirdo he is, Goldie cracks his knuckles, drops an unnecessarily dramatic line, and hops into the water. He stays close to shore for a few moments while stretching out his senses to find the biggest possible fish. Moments later, he senses none other than Ao Tian, swimming his way with a fierce expression and great speed. Completely unconcerned, Goldie dives into the water with one palm stretched out in front of him and closes in on the fish. Upon getting closer, he closes his hand into a fist and activates his anti-magic field, completely outclassing the plesiosaurus with a simple flex of his power. Up on the surface, all that can be seen are giant geysers of water shooting up into the air suddenly, causing differing, but equally confused reactions from both parties. Gao Peng is just annoyed by the fish landing on his head and confused by all the noise over catching some dinner. On the other side, the White Tribe youths are highly concerned. Bai Ge in particular looks white as a sheet, with fearful worry. Terrified for his old friend's safety, he tries to leap forward to go check out what's happening, only for Du to pull him back. The older boy reminds Bai Ge that if anything bad happens to any of them, he'll be beaten to death by his dad. Bai Ge backs off, but he still expresses concern over Ao Tian. Subdu tells him to have his familiar roar and call the plesiosaurus back. While Bai Ge does that, Du has the rest of their group retreat from the location at once. After they turned and left, Du asked Bai Ge what's taking so long, only to be faced with the boy crying. Ao Tian isn't giving any kind of response at all. Though he's regretful, Du has no choice but to tell Bai Ge just forget about it and move on. He gives one last glance to Gao Peng on the shore and declares that being an overlord tier trainer is far from the goal. Between the two of them, he wants to see who will enter the Saint tier first. Oh buddy, have I got some news for you. Back on the shore, Gao Peng is as confused as ever to see the White Dragon Tribe youths leaving the area. More importantly, Goldie has just surfaced with the now lifeless corpse of Ao Tian atop his shoulders. While Goldie explains how the plesiosaurus attacked him first and he totally annihilated it, Gao Peng stays quiet. Then, when Goldie has the audacity to ask if they should barbecue or steam it, Gao Peng has had enough and asks him if he knows the huge mistake he's just made. Goldie just scratches his head in confusion, frustrating Gao Peng further. The man swiftly strikes Goldie across the front of his head and yells at him for daring to think of eating fish without fish soup. Light the fire and set up the pot now. A good while later, under a beautiful dusk sky, Gao Peng is lounging on a long chair, while Goldie happily stirs the roasting fish meat in front of the soup pot. Gao Peng gets up and moves forward to try some of the food, only to be amazed by how great it smells. After getting some green onions from Silly, he pulls a salt bay and dinner is served. Right as he's about to dig in, Gao Peng hears someone calling to him from a little way off. To Gao Peng's surprise, the one calling his name is Bai Yin, the dude from the White Dragon tribe he's met before. To answer Gao Peng's question about what he's doing here, Bai Yin explains that he expected Gao would be the guest from Yuzhou he's been hearing about. He's just here to greet Gao Peng personally and waited a while, so he could recover from jet lag. Or Da Zi lag would be more appropriate, I guess. Gao Peng enthusiastically shakes the crap out of Bai Yin's hand, exclaiming that they're good friends. Without allowing so much as a moment to hesitate, Gao Peng shoves a bowl of fish soup into Bai Yin's hands and tells him to take a few sips of the stuff. He even scoops up some from the pot and shows how perfect the heat on the stuff is to tempt him. A single look at the pot is enough to make Bai Yin give in as well, since the meat is clearly from a beast above the emperor tier. Just where did Gao Peng get this? Oh man, you don't want to know. You really don't. Gao Peng suddenly grabs the bowl right out of Bai Yin's hands and plops a new one between them, telling him to drink this fresh one. Between the temptation and just wanting to pacify Gao Peng, Bai Yin gives in and drinks some of the soup. Within the blink of an eye, his whole tune changes as he marvels at how good this stuff tastes. He's in the middle of praising Gao Peng's cooking skills when he serves up another bowl and insists that Bai Yin eat some meat too. Deciding to forget whatever concerns he may have, Bai Yin chows down, the flavor of the food winning over his own instincts. Right as he's swallowing the latest load, Gao Peng smugly asks him if he's heard of the plesiosaurus. Naturally, Bai Yin expels the contents of his mouth rather violently upon this reveal, while Gao Peng just continues playing the fool as he gets a tissue for the barf. While he's turned away, Gao Peng twists his head around like something straight out of a horror movie and asks Bai Yin if plesiosaurs would actively attack humans. When Bai Yin confirms they don't do that, Gao Peng goes back to his usual, slightly less terrifying grin and comments on how the White Dragon tribe raises a lot of them. Bai Yin again confirms that they're gentle by nature and have been raised by their tribe for many ages. In the middle of explaining how close they are to humans, Bai Yin's mind catches up to his words and he goes stock still upon realizing what exactly the meat he's been eating is from. He turns to Gao Peng with barely controlled horror, only for him to claim that this plesiosaurus attacked his familiar first. Bai Yin sighs, collects himself, and proceeds to swallow another whole bowl, like his life depends on it. That tasty, huh? After polishing the bowl off, he starts getting mad at Gao Peng for purposely pulling him into this, against his knowledge. Gao Peng is quick to brush that aside, and slyly asks if it tastes good though. To his frustration, Bai Yin can only snatch the latest meat skewer from Gao Peng and eat it in one go while yelling that it's delicious. Well, now I'm just hungry. Before they know it, the two have started a contest to see who can eat more upon Gao Peng's suggestion. In the background, Goldie wonders if his cooking may have gotten too good, especially when there's no meat left over for him. That night, as the two acquaintances lounge at the seashore, Bai Yin curiously asks Gao Peng what happened with him and Bai Du's group. Gao Peng honestly answers that he doesn't even know who that is. Bai Yin accepts this and comments that despite being an overlord tier, Du must be far inferior to Gao Peng's power. Even so, his dad's a high-ranking chief hunter in the tribe, with a familiar on the verge of breaking through to Saint tier. Between him and some families that have alliances with him through marriages, they're a considerable force. Now, normally Gao Peng doesn't pay any mind to such people, but he's pretty curious about where Bai Yin is going with this. As it turns out, he just wants to assure Gao Peng he'll have Bai's support if they cause trouble for him. That aside, he also asks if Gao Peng will come to the tribal trade fair tomorrow, to which Gao Peng surprisingly asks if non-tribe members are even allowed. Bai Yin tells him it's a monthly event, and people come from all over the place, so he'd be happy to take Gao with him. Taking the opportunity to mess with his friend once again, Gao Peng smiles at him like an excited lover and says he'll totally go with him. The next day, Gao Peng and Bai Yin are about to head out for the tribal trade fair and meet up with Priestess Granny before they do. She tells Gao Peng to go ahead and enjoy, but to make sure Bai Yin doesn't get him into any trouble. In the background, said tribe members appalled by the idea that he would be the one starting trouble out of the two of them. With their goodbyes said, the two fly off atop matching beasts provided by the tribe. On their way to the fair, Bai Yin tells Gao Peng that it occurs on the first of every month and involves selling monster corpses, cubs, and materials collected over the month. Upon hearing that he can sell stuff too, Gao Peng considers a quick scheme. He could easily buy the monster corpses, feed them to his altar imp, and then sell the pills refined from those corpses at insane rates. Unfortunately, even he recognizes that would draw too much attention, so he shells the idea. That's not even to mention how long it takes for the altar to properly digest meat and soul essence. And most important of all, Gao Peng doesn't need the money anyway. The dude is filthy rich as it is. To the side, Bai Yin can only be worried by the sinister expression on Gao Peng's face. He decides to speak up and reminds Gao Peng that the area they're going to is one jointly supervised by all the tribes. If he stirs crap up over there, the White Dragon tribe alone won't be able to just sweep things under the rug. Gao Peng just puts on his smug face and tells Bai Yin that he's a very good person, who never caused trouble. Yeah, sure, and I'm being say. Not long after that, the pair finally arrive at their destination and touch down. Stepping onto the ground, Gao Peng is pretty surprised by just how many people are there. The sky is littered with more monsters than he's ever seen in one place outside of battle. As they walk through the street, Gao Peng keeps an ear open to all the strange vendors and their even stranger wares. His attention is eventually caught by something called a nutmeg moss flower that can be mixed with other ingredients to produce a mutagenic concoction, because that definitely doesn't sound like a zombie apocalypse waiting to happen. Studying the item's stat window has Gao Peng thinking about how the main character of a novel would pick up treasures in places like this. A little bit ahead, Bai Yin points out a store with ordinary goods on the outer display and tells Gao Peng to come inside and see what else they've got. Before they step in, he asks Gao Peng if he needs Bai Yin to act as a translator, but Gao Peng tells him he already learned the ancient's language back in the Black Fog world. Finally, Bai Yin tells him that most of these stores are opened by people of high status, so the wares tend to be accordingly expensive. Gao Peng listens with one ear while walking forward. The first thing of interest he spots in the store is a level 26 commander tier, Dragon Snow Toad. The kind of familiar that'd be snatched right up by the government back on Earth. More noticeable, however, is a massive bronze-colored tablet. Its status window reveals it to be a divine adamantine tablet, which is as close to indestructible as anything can get. Even more surprising is that the thing only costs one Overlord tier monster core crystal, or the Emperor tier equivalent, which is 20 core crystals. While the price is pretty high on average, Gao Peng is certain the shop owner doesn't know the tablet's true function, or it'd be priced way higher. Unfortunately, Gao Peng can't really buy the thing without making a huge commotion, since his clothes make it obvious he's from Earth and shouldn't be able to obtain Overlord tier crystals. Catching a glimpse of Bai Yin over to the side, Gao Peng smirks at his own genius and goes to give the guy a one-armed hug before Bai Yin can even register what's happening. Gao Peng has deposited an Overlord tier core crystal in his hand, told him to buy the tablet, and scurried off. Minutes later, Bai Yin steps out with a tablet strapped to the back of a pack animal since it's too heavy to carry. As he's explaining this, Gao Peng just summons Silly and has him suck the tablet up into his personal space. A curious Bai Yin asks Gao Peng what exactly he bought a monument like that for, to which the smug man gives an obvious non-answer, claiming that it's to keep his house in order. Bai Yin just puts on a sour expression and thinks to himself that he'd obviously never believe that. As they head towards the exit of the fair, Bai Yin can't help but keep wondering why Gao Peng spent so much money on that weird stone tablet. Even so, he isn't about to ask, because knowing Gao Peng, the answer is just going to make him want to punch something. He's learning. Later in the day, Gao Peng arrives back at the deserted area, where he left Goldie to chill and laze about. After waking the duck up, he has Silly barf up the things he got from the fair. Holding a couple of ingredient bottles in his hands, Gao Peng comes up to Goldie, who's more than a little upset at being woken up. Gao Peng clarifies that he's spoken to the High Priestess and gotten her agreement to place them under her protection over here. After all, the promotion that's about to happen may get extremely loud. Smugly grinning at Goldie, he asks if the duck is ready. Goldie, for his part, shows just how much more bronze he's got than brains as he starts asking who's being promoted and what's going on. My brother in Duck Christ, he just laid it all out for you. Gao Peng tells him not to cause any trouble and warns him that this promotion process is going to be a bloody and painful one, that he has to be mentally prepared for beforehand. After Goldie meekly accepts this, Gao Peng gets to work mixing up the ingredients and throws together a sick-looking snot-green vial of fluid. I do not want to know what's in there. Next up, he orders Goldie to make a fire, while he and Silly get to work coating the adamantine tablet with the liquid he just prepared. With both of those steps completed, next, he has Goldie place the tablet on top of the fire. Ever the air-headed fool, Goldie starts wondering if Gao Peng is baking the stone for him to eat. He takes a closer look at it to see if it looks tasty, but isn't able to decide. From behind him, Gao Peng soon calls out that the setup is almost complete. Next up, he summons Slicey and pulls out a Sharpie. Goldie is beyond confused as Gao Peng starts plotting a very precise line on the middle of his abs with it. That confusion gives way to horror instantly when Gao Peng turns to Slicey and tells him to cut Goldie open along the line he's just drawn. Goldie's barely able to get half a word out before the deed is done and he's been cut open. From there, Gao Peng and Silly move at the pace of lightning to ensure Goldie's safety. They stuff the adamantine tablet inside Goldie's belly and then stitch up the wound as fast as possible. The aftermath of the procedure is a heavily pregnant-looking Goldie, the first ever victim of what shall now be dubbed the reverse C-section. Gao Peng takes off his mask and tells Goldie that he should go ahead and take a nap when he feels sleepy in a little while and make sure not to put pressure on his wound. Lying in place, Goldie laments how badly his reputation will be ruined if Flamey ever finds out about this crap. Still smug over the procedure succeeding, Gao Peng just pats his head and promises not to call out Flamey. Over on a nearby cliff, Priestess Granny and her Earthbreaker ape have been watching everything, and are both as confused as each other by what they've just seen. Just then, the old woman senses the presence of a dragon nearby and reminds the Earthbreaker to make sure nobody disturbs Goldie's promotion. Later that night, Gao Peng is woken up by the sound of Goldie crying out in pain. He rushes to his familiar at once. As his stat window appears, Gao Peng sees that his name has been changed to the Forbidden Adamantine Duck, and his status is slightly injured. Gao Peng attempts to comfort the duck, only for Goldie to wail in agony as he turns his face skywards, and beams of golden light shoot out of his eyes. The illumination caused by the golden energy leaking out of Goldie quickly expands to other parts of his body as well. Soon enough, he's standing in the middle of a raging inferno of power, as the very ground around him is ripped into the air from the pressure. Over on the cliff, where Granny Priestess is watching from, something equally interesting can be observed. A great dragon, large enough that its head alone dwarfs the Earthbreaker ape, has arrived, thinking that said ape was the one undergoing his evolution right now. The ape is quick to admit that he's far from reaching his limit to break through to the Saint tier. Over with Goldie, the evolution is exacting an increasingly heavy toll upon his body, but the process seems to be reaching its climax as the adamantine tablet synchronizes with the duck. Gao Peng stands in place with his eyes locked onto his familiar, silently sending encouragement his way. Just then, Silly comes up behind him and tries to warn Gao Peng of something. The young man turns to the direction he's pointing in, only to see a giant horde of hellish-looking monsters flying their way, attracted by the energy Goldie is letting out right now. For the first time in a while, Gao Peng discards his mask of the carefree fool and stares forward with resolve sharp enough to cut a diamond. He doesn't give a damn, even if he has to expose his trump card here. Protecting Goldie is the top priority right now. Luckily for him, he doesn't actually end up having to do anything, as another being's energy signature suddenly lets itself be felt across the shore. Suddenly, a massive water column large enough to be seen from the other side of the mountain appears in the middle of the monster horde and disperses them. Just like that, the horde is cowed into submission and turns back, leaving Gao Peng and his familiars in peace. As he wonders if the High Priestess is responsible for that, the woman in question is praising the great dragon from before for a job well done. Dude's gotta be the softest dragon I've ever seen. Finally, the evolution process is complete, and Goldie rises up in his new form. The status window pops up seconds later and shows that he is now what is known as a divine adamantine bestial duck, and at the mythical grade no less. And he's a level 80 overlord tier, so he's just a stone's throw away from being Saint tier. Upon going through all of the skills listed in the window, Gao Peng is beyond ecstatic. Not only are Goldie's defenses heavily enhanced, but he's also got a resistance to mental attacks like charm control. All that's left now is to stabilize his body and calm him down from his roided out state. Up on the cliff, the great dragon comments that it would be great if the soul strength could also be increased, since the aura he's sensing is of mythical quality. Right below his head, the Earthbreaker ape is vibrating with anticipation, as he wishes to fight Goldie once he breaks through to Saint tier. Unnoticed by them is the severe look on Granny Priestess's face. As she closely observes Gao Peng, she states that there are talents in every generation. But to do what he has done so easily, and quickly goes far beyond just talent and luck. For now, it's time for them to head home, but tonight, she fears that many won't be able to sleep. The next day, Goldie has reverted to the form he had long ago, or rather, according to his explanation, he's manipulated the power of the elements to give himself a fur cloak over his body. As he's bragging about it to Gao Peng, the human deflates his ego with a single question. Why hasn't he grown any feathers on his head then? That dome looks weird as hell. Yikes, talk about being blunt. Goldie is nearly brought to tears as he admits that he still can't transform his head, no matter what. Gao Peng takes some pity on the crying duck and tells him that it suits him, but he'll ask Southern Sky to send in some wigs for him to try later. This perks him right up, and the two launch into conversation over what kind of wig he'll pick. So they miss it when Granny Priestess shows up behind them. A gentle call from her alerts Gao Peng, who turns and thanks her sincerely for her help last night. She assures him that it's nothing, and it's only natural in the White Dragon tribe to help their friends. She goes on to explain that the commotion from last night was enough to even get the clan leader's attention, enough that he sent her here to invite Gao Peng to see him. What's more, she thanks him for showing her a mythical familiar and making her happy and hands him a token as a gift. As he accepts it, the old lady explains that this bronze medal represents the dignity of the High Priestess and is a sign that he is to be left in peace. Turning around before he can respond, she spits some bars about beautiful trees and not wanting him to die young. Gao Peng is honestly moved by her kindness and asks for one last thing before she leaves. He would like to know her name. The old woman smiles back at him and tells him it's Bai Ya, or Yazi in full. Sometime later, Gao Peng and Goldie can be seen flying through the skies atop one of the local mounts. During their flight, Gao Peng decides to tease the little guy over his extra smooth and hairless scalp and tells Goldie that he'll get used to it before long, because I'm sure they'll make him feel much better. Right as he's teasing Goldie, they finally spot the shoreline of the island that is their destination, the home of the White Dragon tribe's leader. As soon as they touch down, they're greeted by a polite tribe member who directs them on which way to go. As they walk towards the tribe leader's building, the guide warns Gao Peng that their patriarch has a terrible temper, and if he starts lecturing him, Gao Peng should just be silent and listen. Once they've reached the entrance of a specific cave, the guide tells them they're here and takes his leave. Inside the cave, Gao Peng and Goldie come face to face with a decrepit old man, sitting on a throne of stone. As soon as they get near him, the old man's head shoots up and he stares at them intensely with one eye open. Or at least they thought that's what he was doing. Turns out he's just super sleepy, as evidenced by the jaw-breaking yawn he proceeds to let out. Somebody missed their beauty sleep. To Gao Peng's confusion, the old man then just waves his hand at him as though to shoo him off. The younger man can only wonder what the hell just happened as he follows the tribe leader's instruction and leaves the cave. He's still thinking about how weird the old man and his actions are when Bai Yin comes running up behind them. He greets Gao Peng with a smile and congratulates him on Goldie's breakthrough, while also praising him for being able to stand up to his terrifying father. Okay, seriously, what are we missing here? That dude was anything but scary. Gao Peng is just as confused as us and wonders if Bai Yin is just messing with him. Putting that aside, he brings out the bronze medal given to him by Bai Ya and asks Bai Yin if he should use it to pick something up from their warehouse, as he was told he could. Before giving any kind of answer, Bai Yin takes his time freaking out over the fact that the High Priestess actually gave Gao Peng the medal. Later, on their way to the warehouse Gao Peng mentioned, Bai Yin explains that the medal is actually an identity token of the High Priestess that represents friendship with the tribe. Very select few have ever received it. As he wraps up his explanation, they arrive at their destination, and Bai Yin tells Gao Peng that only he can go further than this. All he has to do is show the supervisor inside his medal. Unfortunately for Gao Peng, he can't seem to find this supervisor anywhere, nor can he see anything close to resembling a warehouse. Right as he's thinking this, a giant known as the level 87 Saint Tier 5-clawed White Dragon shows itself, terrifying Gao Peng and chilling him to the bone. The scared young man hastily whips out the identity token to make sure he's not erased for trespassing and shows it to the dragon. This proves to be the right move as it turns around upon seeing it and leaves. At the same time, a path appears in the mountainside that was previously a solid wall lifted up by several giant golems. Inside the cave-like area, he finds in the mountain. Gao Peng is pleasantly surprised to find cases upon cases of rare materials and treasures. Of these, the most noteworthy is the true dragon fruit, the ultimate Saint Tier object, capable of improving any dragon monster's blood purity, if it's below legendary quality. Though there are dozens of other highly valuable treasures, very few of them have any use for Gao Peng. Fishy is already up to legendary grade after being eternal grade in his original life. Dumby, Dazi, and Goldie are already mythical grade, and the rest are all legendary grade, except Slicey and the dragon ants, who are epic grade. We got more grades than a middle school in this thing. With all that in mind, the only real choice here is to grab the true dragon fruit so Grandpa G's white dragon can be promoted to legendary grade. A few days later, Bai Yin arrives at the house Gao Peng is staying in to tell him the supplies sent by his grandfather have arrived along with a letter. Gao Peng thanks him, only for Bai Yin to then inform him that he spotted Bai Du and Bai Ge coming this way with their dad. Gao Peng admits that he pretty much forgot all about them, but assures Bai Yin that he'll play nice. After all, this is the High Priestess's island, not his home. It's that exact sentence that the father of Du and Gus steps in on and exclaims that it is correct. This is the White Dragon tribe, not his personal playground. The group consisting of Gao Peng, Bai Yin, Bai Du, Bai Ge, and the latter two's father steps outside for their conversation. Bai Yin is the first to break the silence and politely asks the older man what he's doing here. The old man goes on a rude rant about how he wishes to see the High Priestess and how he's heard of some supposed genius from the ancestral land who outclassed his two boys. He has to have a look at this person as well. Gotta be the least subtle passive-aggressive dude I've ever seen. Has some class, man. Gao Peng silently notes the man's harsh tone, while Bai Yin tries to talk him down by reminding them he's a guest of the tribe, and on the High Priestess's own land no less. Rather than being cowed, the old man just gets angrier and tells Bai Yin that his father is the tribe leader, not him. He goes on a tirade about how the elders of their tribe fought and suffered for their world together, no matter who they were or their status. And yet things seem to have changed now. Before he can actually badmouth anyone, Bai Yin becomes more forceful and loudly berates the man for being so crude. He tells the man off for sullying their tribe's reputation by being rude to a guest, and tells him that elders like him should be leading by example in such a regard. Gao Peng just takes it all in, and is silently impressed with how firm Bai Yin is capable of being when needed. Even the old man acknowledges his resolve, and admits that he might have underestimated the boy before now. With Bai Yin's words in mind, the man turns to Bai Ge and tells him to ask for their clan leader's son and the High Priestess's guest. This way, there can be no complaint that he's abusing his own seniority. Man, talk about widening the crap out of even the tiniest loophole. He angrily speaks of how their tribe has put forth so much work and resources into raising their partnered animals, and yet this guest just casually killed one of them. Upon hearing this, Bai Ge begins sweating nervously at the idea of the truth being revealed to his father. When his father angrily tells him to get on with it and stop hesitating, Bai Du steps in as well. He asks his father to just come back later, when the High Priestess is home. Rather than letting things simmer down on their own, Gao Peng decides to finally speak up and throw a can of gasoline right into the fire. He asks if they're talking about that plesiosaurus he hunted a few days ago, and with the smuggest grin possible, tells them that it tasted delicious. Next to him, Bai Yin can only grind his own palm into his face at the unnecessary escalation. As intended, this pisses off the boy's dad so much that he summons forth one of his own familiars, while asking if this fool was really chosen by the High Priestess. Bai Yin yells at him for daring to take violent action on the High Priestess's territory, while Gao Peng watches in silent anticipation. Even he didn't expect the old man to be this impulsive. It's not like your idiocy really helped with that either, though. He does note that Bai Yin has constantly tried to protect him, despite them openly using each other up until now. The man has passed Gao Peng's test. Bai Yin turns to Bai Du to try and make him explain the full story of what happened on the beach that day, but this only angers his father even more. At his command, his familiar starts charging up a large orb of energized water, only for it to suddenly be smacked into the sea. Half a moment later, a crater forms in the ground between them all, and the High Priestess emerges from the dust and debris. The old man's tune changes almost instantly, and he starts being polite, but she's already seen enough. The priestess tells him she was trying to let him handle his family matters privately by not meeting with him, but that's off the table now. She tells him that his own resentment has made him blind to the guilt of his son, and expresses her disappointment in Bai Du for not being truthful from the start. Finally, she turns to Gao Peng and tells him the blame may not lie with him, but she will not let her tribe be threatened. Gao Peng smiles at her disarmingly and assures her that he will return her kindness to him in full. Next, she praises Bai Yin for doing a good job here, and tells him they'll go to the ancient tribe's meeting, with his second brother this time. With that, she tells everyone to split up and tells them she doesn't want to see anything like this at the tribe's meeting itself. Later that night, Gao Peng opens the envelope sent by his grandfather and finds a data card inside. Upon plugging it into his computer, he reads his grandpa's message about how the White Dragon's been upgraded, the relocation operation has been carried out, alongside the government and the people of China are migrating as they speak. Though the message is in the typical tone of his grandfather, something is bothering Gao Peng about this. That's when he notices that this file has 12,000 pages, and upon each page, the same message has been repeated, over and over again. That is until the very last page, which has an even shorter message hastily typed in. Be careful what you say and what you do. The day of the ancient tribe's meeting arrives before long, and all the attending parties arrive in the Blue River Plain, one by one. Gao Peng is being led around by Bai Yin, whose older brother tells him he's free to wander, as long as he doesn't cause any trouble. Gao Peng's a little confused as to why they're splitting up, but Bai Yin just frantically pushes him away, while spouting excuses like how the talks will take forever, and they'll just be bored. They don't want him pissing off the wrong people, do they? Once there's some distance away, Bai Yin explains that the tribe living on this plain is the Blue River Clan. They possess an overlord tier, legendary grade 8-armed, roaring abominable snowman, as their guardian familiar. Good lord, and I thought we were done with the insane names 20 chapters ago. When both his guides stare at him with peeved expressions, Gao Peng realizes they still think he'll do something impulsive and muck stuff up. Are they wrong though? Bai Yin confides in Gao Peng that he believes his father plans to step down soon, after spending 700 years as the clan leader. Gao Peng doesn't know whether to be shocked or horrified by the idea of spending that long in power. More concerning to him than any of this, however, is that each of the 3 top tribes has their own quasi-gods. Just like nuclear weapons though, those are only used as deterrents and a last resort. With that in mind, the highest tier of familiar at this meeting should be the Saint tier. As a Saint tier trainer himself, he should have an equal standing to the 7 king tribes, if he wishes to speak up. He's just finishing up that less than comforting thought, when Gao Peng notices Bei Qingyan being blocked off by some other tribe members. She spots him as well and instantly calls out to him, breaking away from the wannabe suitors to join his side. She comments on how brave he is to come here, but Gao Peng is pretty sure the main danger to him is because of her attention. Some of her tribe members call Qingyan by name and demand to know who Gao Peng is, but she's quick to shut them all down. She scolds them for speaking to her so casually, despite her seniority, and sends them all but running, with their tails between their legs. Gao Peng explains to a confused Bai Yin that Bei Qingyan has been on Earth without her tribe for many years now, causing her to technically beat her senior by a lot. After she's done telling off her tribesmen, Qingyan comes back over to Gao Peng's side. Bai Yin has the good sense to take the hint and leaves to let the two have some alone time. Now if only Gao Peng had some of that sense. Dude's dense as a bowl of oatmeal. After some playful banter and concerned warnings are shared between the two, Bei Qingyan wonders out loud what Gao Peng is here for. When he tells her he's here to delay the Earth being turned into a battlefield, she's actually disappointed. After all, she thought he was here for her. Or she hoped at least. She refuses to break and doesn't tell Gao Peng any of this, instead telling him that war will break out on Earth one way or another, regardless of what the tribes choose. The second Earth's barrier goes down, the mutated tribespeople will bring the war to Earth. Gao Peng pauses at this, and tells her he's heard of these mutated ones before, but doesn't know what exactly they are. He's in the middle of asking Bei about them when a bolt of purple energy suddenly crackles in the sky, and a spatial rift begins to open up. Tribesmen all over the place are watching in confusion, wondering what this is. Out of the spatial rift, a horrific beast with the body of a cockroach emerges. The monster named Bloody Fei Lian, a level 96 legendary grade quasi-god, is here to wreak havoc. Gao Peng is extremely worried by this sudden development, but this proves to be unnecessary in the next few moments. From the corners, each of her tribes is camped in. 3 more quasi-gods shoot up into the sky. Despite this being a relief, Gao Peng can't help but curse the top tribes for lying about not bringing their gods with them. Bro's so salty right now, the ocean would be jealous. Bei Qingyan tells Gao Peng that the quasi-god Fei Lian isn't with any of the 3 major tribes, while grabbing him and fleeing. This place is about to get battlefield for the gods. Up above, the 3 quasi-gods of the top tribes cooperate to trap Fei Lian and slash at his exterior. In response, the overgrown Cockroach unleashes its great sun-blood flame all around itself. The great white dragon quasi-god fights back against the flame with its water power, while praising the green one, the 9 heavenly biotopes. Fei Lian proves a formidable opponent as it strategically tries to take down one of its enemies first to reduce their numbers advantage. Unfortunately for the roach, the third quasi-god on their side is now making its move. The 1,000-armed faceless Buddha draws a symbol in the air, before it and sends it raining down on the roach with enough power to drive it into the ground. The cockroach's shell begins cracking just from the pressure holding the attack at bay. In the distance, Gao Peng is awed by the violence that the Buddha is capable of. It can kill any type of enemy, be it physical or otherwise. While the other tribesmen cackle with glee over their quasi-gods and their power, Gao Peng sees something far more concerning. The status of Fei Lian, even after being decapitated, is only listed as slightly injured. Hang on. What in the what now? He ain't got a head though. The other quasi-gods know this as well, and the Buddha tells them to make sure it doesn't have a chance to heal. To that end, both of the others charge up their beam attacks and fire them at the roach with everything they've got. Unfortunately, the Buddha notes after retrieving its shell that Fei Lian shed its body and escaped at the last moment. The only silver lining here is that it must have fallen to St. Tyr at the very least, after such a grueling battle. Suddenly, the 1,000-armed Buddha's master emerges from inside its body and comments on how the foreign quasi-god knew about the time and location of their meeting beforehand and planned this attack. With that in mind, he calls out to everyone present in the area and declares that there is a traitor in their midst. Once the 3 tribe leaders come together to discuss this matter, the Green God tribe's elder insists that the traitor isn't from his people, since only he and his granddaughter have come. The White Dragon tribe's leader is equally steadfast in defending his people, since they're all direct descendants. The Buddha's master asks Old White Dragon about the earthling that recently came to his tribe, but the old man remains confident that Gao Peng is anything but a traitor. When the Buddha's master says that he believes them both, Old White Dragon tells them to just let the Green God tribe handle this investigation, since they're the best at it. The Buddha's master just says that this will be troublesome for the Green God tribe, before declaring that the traitor will be killed without mercy as soon as they are discovered. Seems fair, hang on, no trial. All right, I guess. The next day, the tribe leaders are standing on a high stage, with all their tribesmen gathered before them. Bai Yin points out the purpose of this gathering to Gao Peng. The level 85 St. Tyr beast is known as the black-scaled Shi Yaji. Gao Peng recognizes this as a beast also known as Runfa beast, holding the ability to distinguish between good and evil. However, the fairness of the Shi Yaji is influenced by the creatures it has lived amongst, so Gao Peng is a tad skeptical. After the Shi Yaji makes some insulting comments about humans being stinky, the Buddha's master steps forward and explains how this will work. Everyone will come up in turns and state their innocence in front of the Shi Yaji. If it deems them truthful, they may carry on. And if it deems them as traitors, well, he's already said what he plans to do. Gao Peng turns to Bai Yin and asks just who this old fellow is to command such respect. Bai Yin explains that he's Mofu of the Black Tortoise tribe and a quasi-god monster trainer. Bai Yin then asks where the pretty ancestor he was with has gone, referring to Bei Qingyan. Gao Peng just tells him she had to stand with her own tribesmen to avoid any problems. Over the next few hours, all the tribesmen go up one by one, and each of them is deemed innocent, albeit with copious amounts of insults about their stench. Perhaps even more insulting is when it says Gao Peng has a somewhat nice fragrance, but it's still coated in stink. Finally, by the end of it all, 3 men have been singled out by Shi Yaji as liars. They frantically yell that this must be a mistake, and that they never betrayed their tribe, but Mofo is having none of that. With one sentence from him, Shi Yaji unhinges its jaw and swallows the traitors like limp biscuits. In the crowd, Gao Peng is analyzing everything that's happened, and can't help but be suspicious. The timing of this is far too convenient, for an enemy to appear on the exact day of the tribe's meeting, be defeated, and bring unity between the tribes in the process. It doesn't help that this derails his own plans as well. Up on the stage, Mofo gives a long-winded speech about their history as ones who were driven from their ancestral land for their people's survival, about how the barrier on the ancestral land is bound to lift any day now, and how they must return there to fight against Jiyu Tian. When the time comes, their 3 great tribes will join forces with the 7 Kings tribe to form the Assembly of Tribe Elders. Then, at the time of war, each tribe must send at least half their men to participate in the war. As Mofu goes on about the rewards they will plunder, Gao Peng grows more and more suspicious. Without the events of the day, he's certain the clans wouldn't have become so united so fast, and this call for glory and battle would have gone unanswered. As the entire crowd starts chanting a war cry alongside Mofo, Gao Peng is convinced that there's no chance of buying time for more people to be moved to the Black Fa world. They'll just have to speed up the process. Sometime later, the tribe elders meet in an unknown cave and speak about their plans from there. The consensus seems to be that while the youth don't care much about Earth, their more senior tribesmen are hesitant to let their original home become a war zone. Mofo is quick to take charge, though, and tells them that bringing Earth into the battlefield will give them much-needed strategic depth, not to mention a means to consume the living forces and resources of the foreign tribes and preserve their own to the greatest extent. I won't lie, I don't like this guy very much. Bai Yin meets up with his father after the meeting of tribe elders in some grassy plains. Here, his dad tells him to chill out and just call him dad instead of treating him as the clan leader. Bai Yin is clearly pleased by this. No, really, look at that goofy-ass smile. Bless him. When he asks how the meeting went, his dad tells him it's just like any other. Just a bunch of pretentious idiots who want to eat more before wiping what's already on their faces. Now this guy I like. When Bai Yin brings up Fei Lian, Earth, and Gao Peng, his father is open with him. He explains that he shared his concerns with the other two leaders in the top three, and they all agree that the timing is coincidental enough to be suspicious. As far as they can determine right now, though, it wasn't planned or directed by anyone. As far as Earth is concerned, it's pretty much certain that it'll be drawn into the war to help them preserve their own resources and forces. Though he doesn't like it, it's really just their best? No. Their only option right now. Bai Yin's dad tells him to go speak to his Earthling friend and see if they can work something out. If Earth can be given even a little extra prep time or join their plan to resist Gution directly, they can gain some initiative in the coming war. I mean, I guess he's trying to help at least. Better than most. A little bit later, Bai Yin finishes explaining the situation to Gao Peng. Gao Peng just tells him he understands, and it's best for his people to not get involved in this matter at all. Bai Yin adamantly tells Gao Peng that running away won't solve their problems. He truly believes the best option for the Earthlings is to join their side in this war. Gao Peng can see his intentions are pure, so he gives him a friendly goodbye and an assurance that if he ever needs it, Gao Peng will help in a personal capacity. Later on, at the outer wall of the desolate labyrinth in the Black Fa world, Gao Peng is surprised to see just how quickly the place is growing. Grandpa G walks up to him from behind him and tells him that this is only the first of 100 planned cities in the near future, each of them as big as Yuzhou in the past. God damn, that's a lot. Since there's no way to destroy the inside of the labyrinth, they've decided to build around that. Gao Peng exclaims that this is more of a super metropolis than anything, with almost all of China already having moved here. Grandpa G just smiles at the young man and confirms that the migration is nearly complete, thanks to the government's support. Seeing the positive state of affairs here significantly lightens Gao Peng's mood, though he's sobered right back up when Grandpa G asks what the meeting's outcome was. His grandpa seems pretty accepting of what he's heard when Gao Peng is done explaining. In his years dealing with the ancient tribes, he's come to learn just how difficult they are to deal with. Gao Peng takes one look around all the humans that have come together to ensure their survival and makes a decision. He will never let anyone destroy their home again. Even if they have quasi-gods, he'll just wait a minute. Gao Peng suddenly has a startling realization and takes off in a mad rush. As he leaves, he calls back to his grandpa that he must hold back anyone who comes from the tribes to recruit them until he returns. When Grandpa G asks where he's going, Gao Peng just yells back that he's going to find a trump card for their side. More than anything else, she is very salty that he didn't get to hear if anything happened between Gao Peng and Bei Qingyan. Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on that Gramps. The dude's clueless. Up in the air, Gao Peng thinks about how he nearly forgot that they have a quasi-god on their side as well. On the way to his intended destination atop Da Zi, he suddenly spots a strange trail of light flowing in the sky. Upon getting closer to it, he summons Fishy and tells him to take a look at it. The little guy is upset over being woken up at first, but instantly shoots awake upon seeing the glowing stream of light. Those things floating in there are solar tadpoles. Gao Peng asks if those are quasi-gods, to which Fishy explains that they're a different part of the divine system. Fishy warns Gao Peng to not even think of attacking them without a flame law familiar. Instead of deterring him, this brings a massive, terrifyingly evil smile onto Gao Peng's face as he closes in on Fishy. The end. For now.